I'm Leanne,
And I'm Sparky Mike Anderson.
and this is Unschooled History.
Mike.
And I'm Leanne, and this is Unschooled History. So this week we are talking about Edison and Tesla, and first some background on Edison. He was born in Ohio and grew up in Michigan. His paternal grandfather was a loyalist, an American colonist who remained loyal to the British Crown. He was mostly homeschooled with only 5 months of formal schooling as a child. Most of his education came from a single book, Parker's School of Natural Philosophy, and chemistry classes at the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art. The rest of his homeschooling was done by his mother. So I guess in a way he was one of the first children to be unschooled.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about unschooled like our channel. We are talking about unschooled as in the unschooling homeschool movement, in which learning is directed by the child and which, when done correctly, can work really well. The guy who authored the Aragon series was homeschooled, and it worked really well for him. But of course, if it's not done correctly and the parent isn't involved enough, it doesn't work.
No, it can have disastrous effects.
So you have to be careful if you're going to do that. Apparently, it worked for Edison, though.
Yes.
He went through multiple jobs before becoming an electrical engineer and eventually an inventor. He actually did create the quadruple telegraph, allowing 4 telegraphs to be sent at the same time over the same line. Sold it for 10 grand and opened up Menlo Park, where he got lots of people to do the work for him and took all the legal credit and the patents for mostly other people's work. And now for some background on Tesla.
Nikola Tesla, impeccably dressed.
You got that from the
Epic rap battles of history.
yes. And it was actually Tesla Nikola, impeccably dressed.
Yeah.
It was a cool video, though. He was born and raised in the Austrian Empire, and he came to the U.S. in 1884, having worked in the Edison Electric Company in Europe.
Paris, if I remember.
Yes, in Paris. Actually, he worked in Hungary before he worked in Paris. But I didn't even know before we did the research for this that there were Edison companies in Europe, which is interesting. He did not have a degree, but he did have an understanding of physics and engineering. Once here in the U.S., he worked at at Edison Machine Works in New York before striking out on his own. Now, of course, Tesla did leave the Edison factory in New York City. And what prompted it? The story goes like this. Edison offered Tesla $50,000, the equivalent of $12 million today, to do something. Tesla did it, and then Edison reneged on the deal. But that's not what Tesla wrote in his own autobiography.
Really?
Really. Tesla himself wrote that it was the plant manager, not Edison, that made the deal and then reneged, stating that it was a practical joke. Obviously, Tesla didn't find that very funny. I wouldn't find that very funny either.
No.
His diary doesn't tell us what happened. In his diary, the only thing he writes related to the incident is "Goodbye, Edison Machine Works." What we do know is that he had been working on a design for streetlights using the arc light bulb, and he perfected the project, but then he wasn't paid for it. And in fact, the project was shelved and never utilized. Probably because that particular light bulb turned out to not work quite as well.
Yeah.
Something that Edison and Tesla are noted for, and that is really associated with them, of course, is the War of the Currents, which was actually depicted in a movie starring David Bowie as Tesla.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. You know, you had to get somebody really awesome to play Nikola Tesla, and David Bowie was really awesome.
Yeah.
I miss Bowie. So Tesla had created alternating current and was backed by Westinghouse. Edison favored direct current and claimed that alternating current was dangerous. For what it's worth, he was right. It is more dangerous than direct current. But he was exaggerating it. He was exaggerating the danger and not admitting to the danger with direct current because, let's face it, electricity is dangerous to play with, whether using direct current or alternating current.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter.
It's not the volts that kill you, it's the amperage.
Shocking, I know.
Shocking.
And, honey, you know better than a lot of people, don't ya?
Well, my nickname is Sparky.
Do you want to tell people why you came by that nickname?
And let's just say I've been shocked repeatedly by AC and DC currents. And occasionally thrown across rooms. Smarts.
Yeah, one of the most recent times has been since we got married. And we've been married for 12 years now. So, let's see, what were you trying to plug in?
I don't remember.
It was your computer.
I don't remember. I just remember it hurt.
Michael was plugging in his computer. He didn't get it plugged in quite all the way when his finger accidentally slipped between the outlet and the plug. And he touched the tine. Well, the tines were already partway into the outlet.
I saw sparks.
He saw sparks. He felt a very shocking sensation.
My arm recoiled.
We spent the night in the emergency room. So yes, don't play with electricity. It's dangerous. But like I said, Edison was exaggerating the danger because he was jealous because direct current works better. Or no, direct current doesn't work better. Alternating current works better.
Get your facts right, hon.
Yes, dear, I misread it. Sometimes my dyscalculia turns into a little bit of dyslexia or something. I don't know.
DC works great over short distances.
It does. It works fantastic over short distances.
But if you need to go any distance whatsoever, or you got multiple things going to be plugged into it, you need AC.
By the way, that's also where the band AC/DC got its name. If you're into heavy metal, AC/DC got its name. AC stands for alternating current, DC stands for direct current. The band and the logo, everything for that came from the current wars. And here's the thing. Westinghouse was outpacing Edison's General Electric and even won the right to run electricity for the Chicago's World Fair in 1888, I think? It's 1888 or 1898, one of the two.
I think it was 88.
Okay, but the point is, it was Westinghouse and its alternating current that got to power Chicago's World's Fair, not General Electric with direct current. So obviously we don't have time to cover the whole thing. But obviously AC won. It's still what we use today for the most part. Though DC is still used in some circumstances, such as for bulk transmission of energy and to help connect distant AC stations. We do, however, need to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, there she goes.
No, literally, the elephant.
I know, that's what I was getting at. Oh.
Topsy. Topsy the elephant is often associated with the War of the Currents. But Edison, for all his faults, was not actually involved in her electrocution. Here's what really happened. Topsy killed 3 people. Luna Park decided to have her put down. They were going to hang her, but the SPCA said that was cruel. So, after consulting with the SPCA, Luna Park decided to use a combination of strangling, poison, and electrocution.
Now, we want to point out this is the SPCA of more than a century ago, not the SPCA of today.
Yeah. Things have changed. Although they're still better than PETA. So it became a myth later on that this was part of the current wars because AC was used to electrocute Topsy, and it was filmed by an Edison-owned film company. However, Edison himself was not involved at all, and the execution of Topsy was more than a decade after the Currents War came to an end. They only chose electrocution because they believed that it was more humane after experiments done during the current wars over a decade before, using dogs and cats. And this is where Edison does come in. He was the one doing the experiments. This is also, people, why we have the electric chair as a means of execution for criminals who have the death penalty. So we mentioned earlier that Edison took credit for some things that he didn't create. Here are some famous things he's credited with that he actually took from someone else. First is the light bulb. Edison is absolutely famous for inventing the light bulb, but he didn't.
Nope, not a bit.
Let us illuminate you with some knowledge. British inventor Joseph Swan is actually the creator of the light bulb. He just allowed Edison to sell them in the US. Edison made a few improvements, which is why we have the light bulbs that we have today, instead of the arc light bulb, which was created by Swan. The motion picture, Edison got the credit, but it was actually developed by Francis Jerkins, whose partner stole everything when he went to work with Edison and handed the paperwork and designs over for Edison to patent. Recorded sound? Not Edison. No. It was brought about when a Frenchman called Edouard Léon Scott de Martinville invented the phonograph. Edison barely tweaked it to patent the phonograph. Oh, and the so-called Edison battery? It's a nickel iron battery. And Valdemar Jungner, a Swedish scientist, experimented with the nickel iron battery before Edison did. That's not to say, of course, that Edison didn't actually invent some things. He didn't steal everything. He did actually have some ideas of his own, which isn't surprising considering he has over 200 patents under his name. First, Edison invented the concrete home.
Yes.
Even though his particular idea flopped, since it meant making the whole home out of concrete, including sinks, beds, and tubs, and all of it with molds. And it was really expensive to get started. But we do still use concrete in our buildings today. And some of Edison's original models are still standing and still being lived in.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. It really is. Another one of his inventions was an electric pen. It was a flop.
It was the pen I'm thinking about. It was a flop for its intended purpose. It's a success in another area.
Yes, and we'll talk about that when we talk about their legacies. But it was a good idea, and it did work. It did what it was supposed to do. But there was the battery. It was a wet cell battery.
Oh boy.
That meant that it had to be maintained by experienced telegraphists. So it was never going to be a popular product anyway.
Yeah.
Also, there were other copying pens and other ways of making stencils that didn't require the battery, creating competition that Edison's pen just could not stand up to. And here's a few of Tesla's inventions. Yeah, Michael, I know you're excited. After all, Tesla is your favorite inventor in history.
Next to Og.
Og.
The caveman that learned to bang the rocks together to make fire.
We do not know his name. Did people even have names back then?
Nobody knows when names were invented.
That's true. Maybe that's a future episode or something. Okay, the top left corner shows some of the generators for alternating current. Again, it's what we use. It's what's in your homes. The bottom right corner shows a Tesla coil at work, and it looks so cool. And it doesn't just look cool. Michael and I have seen a video of Tesla coils being used to play music. I think my favorite is definitely when they were being used to play Sweet Home Alabama.
I like that one, but I also like House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah, House of the Rising Sun was cool, but I think Sweet Home Alabama was better.
Iron Man is also good.
Look these up on YouTube, guys. You're on YouTube anyway, watching this video. When you're done here, if you've still got time, go check out these videos of Tesla coils playing music. It is awesome. Top right is an induction motor, and it's the same induction motor we still use today in things like hair dryers and power tools.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes me wish we still used his turbine motors in cars. Tesla's turbine motors had a 60% efficiency rating.
They tried it.
Okay, so why then are we stuck with motors with only a 40% efficiency rating?
If it's the turbine motor that my dad was talking about, my dad's an old automotive employee. They had a problem with the exhaust of it burning the paint off the car behind.
That might be a good reason, and your dad knows this stuff. So yeah, I will take your dad's word on that. Mike's dad is really, really cool. I love my father-in-law. He's awesome. He knows so much cool stuff. He is self-taught on so many things. Self-taught clock and watch repair. We have an antique grandfather clock that his dad made sure was in good shape for us. It was a gift for owning our first house. I mean, his dad is just so awesome. He gives me advice on antiques. He's just so awesome. I love him. I mean, I love my mother-in-law too because I have a lot of similar tastes to her, but the amount of stuff that my father-in-law taught himself is just amazing. And I'm really proud to be his daughter-in-law. Okay, so bottom left shows the first remote-controlled boat. And
Yeah.
the patent office was going to refuse to issue the patent. Until Tesla is like, fine, I'll show you it works. And he did. He's like, here, it works. See? He built a working model, everything, showed them that it works, and they issued the patent. And because of that, Tesla is considered the grandfather of the drone.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Tesla to thank for our remote-controlled cars, remote-controlled boats, drones, everything. And he's also considered the grandfather of Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. Wi-Fi and cell phones.
Yes, because he was the first to really envision sending stuff through the air.
Wireless transmission of data, voice, and images is what he envisioned.
His vision was actually to be able to send electricity wirelessly through the air and power the world's electrical needs for free.
Yes, it is. And we now have the ability to do that limitedly with certain devices in the home. We can transmit power. Of course, the idea has mostly been phased out now, but it was popular less than a decade ago.
Actually, it's becoming popular again. I mean, we now have a way to power our cell phones without plugging them in. We can now just put them on a special little pad.
Yeah.
And it transmits the power to the battery. And that's something we would not have today if not for Tesla's ideas. Which I just think is really, really cool that Tesla was able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And envision that, and it's ideas that we're still putting into use today.
Yes.
So that's probably why Tesla is your favorite inventor, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about their legacies.
Oh boy.
Obviously, like I said earlier, Edison had a lot of patents, over 200 patents to his name. Some of his inventions were flops. We talked about the electric pen earlier. Now we're going to talk about why that invention is still important. Look in that bottom left-hand corner. Some of you will recognize this, whether you use it on a daily basis or as a hobby, or whether you have had it used on you, just as Michael and I have. That, my friends, is a tattoo gun. The modern tattoo gun would not exist if not for Edison's electric pen. Because a tattoo artist saw the electric pen, bought one, modified it for ink and and needles and everything, and turned it into the first modern tattoo gun, which really revolutionized the tattoo industry. And so it's really kind of because of Edison that tattoos are no longer just poke and stick and no longer just something you see on sailors and Marines and as something done as a rite of passage in some tribes. It's now something that is becoming a lot more mainstream. More and more people are getting tattoos. Again, Michael and I both have them. It's not a big deal anymore. It's not as
taboo.
It's not as taboo as it used to be. And again, it's because of Edison and because he invented the electric pen that was bought and modified and became the electric tattoo gun, which made it faster and easier to make the tattoos, which means also that tattoos can be more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
They can be done faster.
They can be done with color.
Yes.
Old tattoos were mostly black and white.
So they can be done with multiple colors, and they can be done with multiple inks
In one session.
And you can get a bigger tattoo in one session.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Edison to thank for that.
Yes.
Tesla.
Even though he personally hated tattoos.
Yeah, even though Edison personally hated tattoos. Tesla's legacy. Of course, we still have the Tesla coil. Tesla coils are now used for fun.
As well as science.
But they're used for fun now. The plasma ball that you see, and some of you may have done this, played with a little toy plasma ball at home, or maybe you've gone to something like the Science Center in St. Louis. Or not the Science Center, it's the
Magic House.
The Magic House in St. Louis has one of these things. It's run using a Tesla coil. And what it is, you touch it, and the sparks of electricity go to your fingers, and it flows through your body. And because it's such a low amperage, it's perfectly safe. And it even makes your hair stand on end. Really cool, a lot of fun to play with. That's something that we have Tesla to thank for.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, some of you may recognize this car. It is the 2021 Tesla Model X. Elon Musk runs the Tesla Motor Company. These are all electric cars. They were named for Tesla. They are designed based on Tesla's ideas and Tesla's vision. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I've never said this about a car before. But this is a sexy car.
Yes. In fact, as much as it's going to sound morbid, please forgive me, we saw a picture of a Tesla hearse the other day.
Yeah, it was an old Tesla S model that had been converted into a hearse.
And it was still attractive. And that's saying something for a hearse.
So Tesla has his legacy. Edison has his legacy. We have the movies. There's epic rap battles of history. Tesla versus Edison. Again, go watch that episode of Epic Rap Battles because it's funny.
Yes, and what's really sad to say, though, is Tesla was almost lost to history until about the 70s.
Yeah. Because he kind of died in obscurity in the 40s. He died alone in a hotel room in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then the FBI came and took his papers.
And then people started doing research and discovering stuff about him, about what he actually did, and started sharing it. And the more the internet grew and more people shared with each other, the more people found out about him.
So there you go. That is Edison and Tesla. And I'm sure there were things that you thought you knew that apparently you didn't. That's how we felt. We honestly thought that we knew everything there was to know, and we were wrong.
Tesla is also memorialized in science fiction with death rays and earthquake machines.
Because he invented them.
He claimed to have invented them.
He did. He claimed to have invented them. I think they tested the earthquake machine on an episode of Mythbusters.
I don't remember if they did or not.
Pretty sure they did. So that was a good episode. So there you go. That's Edison and Tesla for you. As always, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and make sure that you've also liked our Facebook page for daily history facts and every Friday, a Creepy Friday fact.
Have a good evening.